In this video, we will take a look at a game I've been very excited for, Warhorse Studios' Juggernaut RPG, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Specifically the combat, and why this combat system alone makes it a must-play title. In the world of RPGs, few games dared to immerse players in historical accuracy the way Kingdom Come Deliverance did. And that sentiment is reflected the most in the way the combat works in the game. The first game had one of the most in-depth, skill-based, historically accurate melee systems you could do in a video game. Even though the complex directional strikes and precisely timed blocks frustrated a lot of players, it soon became a core part of the experience. People appreciated the feeling of getting better as you progress, something you no longer get in most action games these days. Naturally, the sequel had a lot to live up to in this department. To achieve this feat, combat has been streamlined. This does make sense story-wise. Henry was a complete nobody in Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, but by the time the sequel begins, he's been an aspiring swordsman for quite a while now. It wouldn't really make sense for him to go back to being a regular peon in a village walking around in horse crap all the time and not really knowing how to swing a stick. The first way this is obvious is that the attack directions have been reduced to 4, up, down, left, and right. Swords use all 4, but it's different for every weapon. Polearms, for instance, generally only have 3. This is something you might want to consider when choosing a fighting style. We saw Henry training in a sword fight with Hans in the latest preview of the game. There is also unarmed combat where you can punch and hook right and left. This is where we can see the different attack directions. Before equipping his sword, Henry is using fists, and he only has 3 directions. But once you equip your sword, he had 4. 3 of them are used for slashing, and the arrow at the bottom is used for stabbing. You can't poke people with the tip of blunt weapons like maces, of course. Realism is at the center of this system, as Henry mentions that you can't assault armored opponents straight away. You need to wear them down first. Henry can also chain attacks, which are faster and more efficient. When in combat, you need to use blocks as well. To do this, the player will need to match the direction of the opponent's attacks. Remember how random bandits ganged up on you and beat you to a pulp because you cannot block on all fronts? Blocking can now defend you from multiple opponents, as long as they're all in front of you. However, you can't spam block in order to wear down your opponent, as maintaining your cover costs stamina. Stamina is represented by the yellow bar, and if you have none left, you will start taking damage to your health. There are also perfect blocks that open up the enemy so that you can strike back. Timing matters a lot when doing a perfect block, because if you fail, you will get hit and lose health. You can do this maneuver when there is a little glowing sword in the middle of your rosette. In KCD1, perfect blocking and master striking were super useful, and basically, if you were willing to play very defensively, you could have overcome everything with just this move. It doesn't work like that in KCD2. There's still master strike, but it's been reworked to be much harder to implement, and there are defenses even against master strike now. And it's a lot cleaner than before. This shift from simply relying on perfect blocks and master strikes to requiring players to vary their approach in each fight is a welcome addition for people who want more tactical changes to the system. If you are successful with the perfect block, you can perform a riposte right after. This is like a counterattack, and if your opponent does a riposte on you, that can be countered with the perfect block. Again, this authentic sword combat alone will give you hours of excitement when you are mastering it, and once you have mastered it, you can really have fun with your opponents like a real historical knight. And while the sword is still the most versatile weapon, the new combo system gives you more reason to use other melee weapons as well. Weapons like the mace have some unique combos that can target joints or unarmored areas on a target. This encourages players to think strategically about their weapon choices and how they approach combat, adding more variety to the way each encounter plays out. If you notice your foe isn't wearing any leg armor, for instance, you could specifically execute a combo that goes for the legs without having to manually aim down at them. During friendly duels, we can bet on the fight. We can also taunt our opponents mid-fight. There is also the option to give up during the duel when you have no stamina left, because with 0 stamina, you basically do nothing. The refined combat system has made the game a must-play for even those on the fence, I think. Many people were put off by the challenging combat straight out of the gate. Obviously, they would expect the same thing here, but that jankiness has been smoothed out for a new system that gradually ramps up the difficulty. The accessibility will make new players feel a lot better and probably will not rage quit as much as they did the first time. Combat no longer demands perfection, but rewards players who use timing and skill, aligning with the realistic portrayal of medieval combat. A lot of the early game enemies are now tuned to Henry's martial inferiors, so you can cut your teeth on some fights where you're favored to win. A big change from getting beaten up by the town drunk in the first hour of KCD1. Warhorse has assured the series veterans that they won't have it easy just because they mastered the first game's combat. The most skilled players will find that the ceiling has been raised for them as well. You'll also need to focus more on varying your moves and using all of the tools available to you. That range of tools has been expanded. The flashiest new additions are crossbows and guns. It's 1403, so it's early firearms that take forever to reload. The introduction of crossbows and firearms will also encourage a lot of players who prefer ranged fighting styles, although I doubt you'll... If it takes you 10 minutes to reload, you probably won't make that into an entire playstyle. We saw a lot of crossbow gameplay during that epic siege battle at the beginning of the game. During the siege, we are playing as Father Godwin, and KCD will use that story device to progress this story. I wonder if we will play as Hans at some point. Firearms aren't accurate at all beyond a few paces, but if they're pointed the right way at close enough range, they'll do some serious damage. They have a psychological impact, too. Enemies in KCD2 will decide if it's still worth fighting, based on how the fight is going and how tough they think they are. If you take out the captain with a loud boom and a flash of fire, his underlings might just head for the hills. So the use of the firearm will be situational. It won't be a weapon we can use all the time. That would be unrealistic and way too overpowered. Overall, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 redefined and enhanced something that was already good and had great potential, without messing up what made the original good. If you are tired of the same old fantasy RPG combat in every game, this gritty punch-to-the-gut action will provide you with hours of enjoyment as you get immersed in medieval life. Henry's story is based on reality, so this combat system mirrors that. February 2025 will be a great month to play this historically authentic RPG, developed by people who actually love their fans. I'm so excited. Like the video if you get anything out of it. Comment and subscribe if you like the channel.